The evening sunlight cast long shadows across the marble floor of the mansion, the air carrying the scent of fresh flowers and polished wood. Ji-Hyun moved quietly through the halls, her steps soft against the gleaming surface as she dusted the intricate carvings on the paneling. She had worked for Min-Soo, the powerful Korean Mafia boss, for months now, and while the pay helped her mother's medical bills, the atmosphere here was always heavy with unspoken tension. Her mind drifted to her family, the struggles they faced, and the long hours she spent cleaning and serving to keep them afloat. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, and Ji-Hyun tensed as Min-Soo approached. He was a man of undeniable presence, his dark eyes sharp and his tailored suit immaculate. When he spoke, his voice was low and smooth. "Ji-Hyun, pour me a drink." She nodded, her hands steady as she filled a glass with whiskey. The amber liquid caught the fading light as she handed it to him, their fingers brushing briefly. She felt a warmth rise to her cheeks and looked away, but Min-Soo's gaze lingered on her. "Thank you," he said, a small smile curving his lips. "You have a way of making even the simplest tasks feel meaningful." Ji-Hyun's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral, reminding herself to maintain her professional distance. Yet as the evening passed, she found herself stealing glances at him, noticing the way he laughed with his guests and moved with a quiet confidence that intrigued her. Later, as the night drew to a close, Min-Soo turned to her. "You've worked hard today. Take a break." She nodded, relief washing over her, but as she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "Ji-Hyun, tomorrow, my study. I want to see you there." Her breath caught as she met his gaze, the air between them charged with a tension she couldn't name. Without waiting for a reply, he walked away, leaving her standing alone in the dim hall. As Ji-Hyun made her way back to the servants' quarters, the cool night air seeped through the windows, and the stars above flickered in the vast sky. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was shifting, that something significant was about to happen. The phrase "you're mine forever now" echoed in her thoughts, a whisper of a future both thrilling and uncertain. She tried to push aside the unease, but Min-Soo's intense gaze stayed with her, a reminder of the change that loomed on the horizon. It wasn't until she found the pregnancy test in her small apartment's bathroom that her world shifted. The two pink lines stared back, a fact she couldn't deny. She was pregnant, and Min-Soo was the father. As the news settled, Ji-Hyun's thoughts churned with fear, uncertainty, and a flicker of something else. She had never planned for a child, especially not with a man whose life was wrapped in danger. Yet, the idea of carrying his child, of being tied to him in this way, stirred feelings she hadn't expected. Min-Soo's desire for a family burned strong, though Ji-Hyun hadn't known it. When she found the courage to tell him, his reaction flooded over her. He was thrilled, his eyes bright with a possessiveness that made her breath catch. For a moment, she saw a crack in his armor, a side few ever witnessed. He spoke of building a life, of shielding her and their child from the shadows of his world. But beneath his words, she felt something darker, a resolve that edged toward obsession. "You are mine now, and our child will be mine too," he murmured, his voice low. "I will keep you both safe." The words ran cold through her, a mix of thrill and dread she couldn't shake. As weeks passed, Ji-Hyun found herself caught in Min-Soo's tightening grip. He gave her luxury and attention, making sure she wanted for nothing. But each day, the walls seemed closer, her freedom slipping away. She was trapped in a life of wealth, with Min-Soo as both her keeper and her protector. The fear of his world, once a distant hum, now pressed on her, a constant reminder of the risks that came with loving a mafia boss. Yet, despite the danger, despite the doubt, Ji-Hyun felt pulled toward him, toward the promise of a life that was both thrilling and frightening. In the quiet of night, when the city outside fell still, Ji-Hyun would rest a hand on her belly, feeling the slight curve that was their child. She wondered what lay ahead, whether she and Min-Soo could build a life free from his past, or if their love was doomed. The thought chilled her, a cold weight she couldn't lift. But for now, in this moment, She was his, and he was hers, bound by a child still hidden from the world. As she drifted to sleep, surrounded by the mansion's comfort, Ji-Hyun wondered what tomorrow would bring, and whether she would ever escape the man who had claimed her. The days blurred together, each one tightening the web Min-Soo had woven. Every part of her life was directed, from her clothes to her company. The mansion, once a sign of wealth, now felt heavy, its grandeur pressing in. Min-Soo's focus on her and the baby had grown fierce, and Ji-Hyun questioned if she had made a mistake by staying. Despite the lavish life, she felt like a captive, trapped in a world he built. She was forced to attend high society events, where she was shown off like a prize, a sign of Min-Soo's status. Other women glanced at her with curiosity and scorn, their eyes lingering on her swelling belly. Ji-Hyun felt out of place, a poor girl who had stumbled into a world she didn't fit. Min-Soo's moods had become unpredictable, his temper swinging without warning. One moment he was gentle and warm, the next he was furious, his anger barely held back. Ji-Hyun moved carefully, never knowing what would set him off. She began to feel like she was living with a man fighting his own emotions, waiting for the explosion. The crash of a glass or the smell of burnt food often sparked his rage, and Ji-Hyun would apologize, even when she knew she wasn't at fault. The air grew thick with tension as his face reddened, his eyes blazing with a fury that made her heart race. As she walked this treacherous ground, Ji-Hyun wondered if she would ever find a way out, or if she would be forever stuck in this world of his making. As Ji-Hyun navigated her new reality, the strain between her and Min-Soo grew, pressing down on her. She would often slip away to the garden, seeking refuge among the tall hedges, where the sweet scent of flowers and the soft chirping of birds offered a contrast to the darkness that had taken over her life. There, surrounded by nature's calm, she let herself feel the emotions she had been holding back, the desperation, the hopelessness, the fear building inside her. Tears would fall as she wondered how she had ended up here, trapped in a life that wasn't hers. The rustle of leaves and the warmth of the sun were a cruel reminder of the freedom she craved. Meanwhile, Min-Soo's enemies had begun to notice the weakness in his new family life, their attention fixed on Ji-Hyun and the baby with a cold focus. They whispered among themselves, their voices laced with curiosity and threat. Min-Soo's usual ruthless demeanor had softened, and his rivals saw this as an opening. Their patience wore thin as they waited for the perfect moment to strike. Ji-Hyun's only comfort was the baby growing inside her, a tiny, fragile being that depended on her for survival. She would talk to it, whispering words of comfort and reassurance, hoping it would understand that she was doing everything to keep it safe. As she stroked her belly, a brief sense of peace settled over her, a purpose she had been missing. It was a fleeting calm, quickly broken by Min-Soo's arrival. He would appear, his gaze sharp and fixed as he watched her interact with the baby. Ji-Hyun tensed when he placed his hand on her belly, his touch firm and possessive. The air grew heavy with unspoken words. Min-Soo's voice dropped low as he said, "You're mine, now and forever." The words reminded her of the world she was trapped in, where she was a piece in his game of power and control. The shadows from the mansion's chandeliers stretched longer, darker. Ji-Hyun felt uncertainty press in, threatening to overwhelm her. She knew she had to hold on, to find a way to survive, but she wondered if she could ever escape the web Min-Soo had spun around her. The sound of his voice calling her name broke the spell. Ji-Hyun took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead, and walked back into the mansion. The heavy doors closed behind her, wrapping her in the familiar atmosphere of luxury and oppression. The soft hum of the air conditioning and the faint scent of Min-Soo's cologne whispered reminders of her circumstances, of the life she had unwittingly entered. Her heart felt heavy, her thoughts a mix of fear, uncertainty, and a deep longing for freedom. She made her way to the bedroom, her footsteps quiet on the plush carpet, the silence a contrast to the turmoil inside her. The room was dimly lit, the only sound the soft rustle of wind outside. Ji-Hyun's eyes wandered to the window, the city skyline a blur of lights and shadows. a reminder of the world beyond her gilded cage. As she approached the bed, she noticed a small, intricately crafted music box on the nightstand, its lid open, revealing a delicate ballerina twirling to a hauntingly beautiful melody. The soft melody of the music box filled the room, a gentle reminder of the moments Ji-Hyun and Min-Soo had shared. It was a piece she loved, one that brought her a sense of calm amidst the turmoil of her life. As she gazed at the music box, Ji-Hyun's thoughts became a jumble of emotions, each one wrestling for dominance. The music seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat, a stark reminder that she was still alive, still fighting, and still clinging to the hope of one day breaking free from the shackles that bound her. Ji-Hyun's fingers brushed against the music box, her touch tender as she closed the lid, the melody dissipating into silence. She stood frozen, lost in thought, as the weight of her decision settled over her like a shroud. The unborn child stirred within her, a constant reminder of the bond she shared with Min-Soo, a bond that brought both pain and love. In this moment of solitude, Ji-Hyun realized that her choice was not just about her own freedom, but about the life she wanted to create for her child, a life that would be shaped by the decisions she made now. As she thought of Min-Soo, she was reminded of his power, his wealth, and his capacity for tenderness. She recalled the quiet moments they had shared, the promise he had made, and the words that still echoed in her mind. "You're mine forever now." Those words, once a declaration of love, now felt like a prison sentence, a reminder of the possessiveness that defined their relationship. To stay with Min-Soo meant surrendering to his world, living by his rules, and risking the loss of her own identity. Yet, leaving him meant embracing uncertainty, losing the security he provided, and the love they shared, flawed as it was. As the night wore on, Ji-Hyun stood at the crossroads, the decision before her, clear and daunting. She knew that whatever path she chose, there would be no turning back, that the fate of her unborn child and her own heart hung precariously in the balance. With a resolve she did not know she possessed, Ji-Hyun made her decision, one that would forever alter the course of their lives. The room seemed to fade away, leaving only the sound of her heartbeat, a reminder of the life within her and the life that lay ahead. Ji-Hyun took a deep breath, the air filling her lungs with determination. She knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, filled with challenges that would test her resolve and her strength, but she was ready to face them, for herself and for the child she would protect. In the end, it was not the fear of the unknown that defined her, but the strength of her spirit, the resilience of her heart, and the desire to forge a path that would lead her and her child to a future filled with hope and freedom. The darkness of the room receded, replaced by a glimmer of light, a symbol of the dawn that would bring a new beginning, a chance for Ji-Hyun to write her own destiny, to create a life that was truly hers.